everybody, Sticks here with the Token Minorities, bringing you another deck on Pokemon TCGO, and today I'm bringing you a deck centered around Tyranitar from Fates Collide. And before I get into the deck, just a reminder that if you like this video or found it helpful, please leave a like, drop a comment, and maybe subscribe. It helps us out a lot and lets us do more for you guys. But anyway, like I said, this deck is centered around Tyranitar from Fates Collide with the Dark Mountain attack for 5 Darkness Energy. So really heavy and very specific, but it hits for 150 damage and you discard the top 2 cards of your deck, and this attack does 50 more damage for each supporter card discarded in this way. So you might look at that attack and think that it is immediately not viable because, I mean, who has time to attach 5 Darkness Energy? Even with like Max Elixir and Oblivion Wing and stuff like that, that's still a whole lot of energy. How are you even going to do it before your Larvitar or Pupitar gets picked off because you're loading so much energy onto it? Well, Tyranitar has this really cool ability, Raging Roar. When you play this Pokemon from your hand to evolve one of your Pokemon, you may attach 1 Darkness Energy from your discard pile to this Pokemon for each prize card your opponent has taken. So, if your opponent has taken 5 prize cards and you play Tyranitar onto a Larvitar without any energy onto it, as long as you have 5 Darkness in your discard pile, you can load up a T-Tar in a single turn, and that's not even your attachment for the turn. So that is amazing. That is what we are going to utilize to get Tyranitar up and attacking. And let's just go ahead and get to the Pokemon line, shall we? I'm running 2 Shaman just because Shaman is Shaman, and it's set up, blah blah blah. You all know the same thing. It's the same thing every single time. Now, with Tyranitar, when you play it down and you can get 5 Darkness Energy onto it, or maybe only 2 or 3, it can't quite attack yet. So this also pairs very well with Darkrai EX from Breakpoint with its Dark Pulse attack. This attack does 20 more damage for each Darkness Energy attached to all of your Pokemon. So you have 2 Darkness Energy on Darkrai, that's 60 damage. You have 1 Darkness on the Yveltal that you use to power up stuff, that's 80. And then all of a sudden you slap down Tyranitar and throw 4 energy or 3 energy from the discard pile, and all of a sudden Darkrai is hitting for a massive amount of damage just from playing down a T-Tar. So these two have incredible synergy. And also Darkrai is just, I mean, it's a little bit bulkier than Tyranitar. And it's just a great way to be able to attack things without putting Tyranitar in harm's way. Now, I'm also running Baby Yveltal because, I mean, what would this deck be without Baby Yveltal accelerating Darkness Energy and getting a necessary 30 damage on a lot of different things? Because you might notice that while Tyranitar has the ability and potential to hit for up to 250 damage, more often than not you're only going to be hitting for 150. So you can slap a muscle band onto that and hit for 170, but that isn't always enough. So that's where Yveltal can come in, getting a little bit extra damage with the Oblivion Wing and just, you know, doing that and accelerating energy at the same time. I'm running a 3-1-3 line of Larvitar, Pupitar, and Tyranitar. This was a line that I have been messing with for a couple days, actually. I mean, I've been trying 4-1-4, 4-2-4, 3-2-3, I mean, all of those. And really, the 3-1-3 line was what I found to be, I guess, the best overall, because you really are only going to get 1 or 2 Tyranitar up in a game, and one of them is usually with the rare candy, so you only really need 1 Pupitar. I mean, this is a line that I can guarantee, well, I can almost guarantee is not really the most ideal. This is just what I have found, so I would suggest to anybody playing this deck that you try to figure out that line for yourself and figure out what type of line you want to run with the Larvitar through Tyranitar. On to the items, I'm running 2 Battle Compressor to get the Darkness Energy into the discard pile, as well as a supporter if we need it, because the only drawback with Tyranitar is the Darkness Energy have to be in the discard pile, and late game that's not a problem. Early game you need to find ways to get Darkness Energy in there. Battle Compressor is a great way to do that. I'm running 1 Escape Rope just to, you know, bring my guys out. I mean, Larvitar, Pupitar, and Tyranitar, if they get Lysandered out before they're ready to go, they can be just kind of stuck in the active spot, so Escape Rope is a way to get out of that. 4 Max Elixir to help speed up the energy process. Now, you are not able to accelerate energy with Max Elixir onto Pupitar or Tyranitar, so you kind of want to leave it as Larvitar as long as possible, but evolving into Pupitar isn't really the end of the world just because of Tyranitar's ability. I'm running 2 Rare Candy to go straight from a Larvitar to Tyranitar, 1 Sacred Ash. You really don't run Super Rod in this deck. You really don't really, wow, I'm so good at English. You really don't want to run Super Rod in this deck because that puts energy back, and you want the energy in the discard pile for Yveltal and Tyranitar. Running 1 switch, I run a switch and an escape rope in my decks that I don't have free retreat, just because I like my options. 4 Trainer's Mail to help with consistency, 4 Ultra Ball to get everything out, 4 VS Seeker to reuse all of our supporters, because I am running a relatively thin line as usual. I am running 1 Lysander, 3 N, 3 Sycamore, and a single Skyla. So, that's just a line I'm comfortable with. Lysander, I wanted to be able to fit more cards in, so I decided that 1 would be good enough. 3 of N and Sycamore, because that's a line I'm comfortable with. I like running that line of supporters. And, I like running that line of supporters. I'm running a single Skyla just to search out the rare candy if I need it. I'm running 1 Shadow Circle just because, Tyranitar can get OHKO'd by a Lucario or something like that, to where they fighting types only need a single energy. Actually, just a strong energy Garchomp can knock out Tyranitar with a Turbo, Turbo Assault, I think it is. So, Shadow Circle is a way to mitigate that damage. You could also potentially run Reverse Valley in order to allow T-Tar with a Muscle Band to hit that magic 180. I prefer Shadow Circle just to give Tyranitar a little more longevity. I'm running 2 Muscle Band just because Muscle Band can really go on anything. I would run Fighting Fury Belt, but you can't use it on T-Tar, so considering I wanted to make T-Tar the centerpiece of this deck, I decided to stick with Muscle Band instead. And then we are running a whopping 12 Darkness Energy, because you want to have energy in the discard pile for Yveltal and Tyranitar, but you also want to have energy in the deck for Max Elixir, and Tyranitar needs 5 Darkness in order to be able to attack. You usually have 1 on Yveltal and 2 on Darkrai, so that's 8 right there, so that gives you an extra 4 energy to kind of work with, ish, kind of, sort of. But one thing that I did notice about this deck that I tried to run at first but decided to give up for Max Elixir was Puzzle of Time. That way you can work with Dark Mountain a little more in order to more often than not get a supporter, but you'd have to get a lot thicker of a supporter line than I am running, and I decided that Max Elixir is a lot better than Puzzle of Time in this instance, but I encourage you to try it for yourself and see what it does for you. But anyway, I'm done rambling. Let's just go ahead and see this deck in action. Alrighty, we have found one against a Zeki Legend with, it looks like an Yveltal Zoroark Gallade deck, which will be a little bit annoying to face, but you know what? If you can't beat the best, then you don't even deserve to play with the best. So we're immediately going to face a top tier deck with the Tyranitar deck, and we'll see how we stack up. Admittedly, of the top tier decks, I feel like this is one that we have a best matchup, and I actually start with an amazing hand. Wow, that's really awesome, because I can go ahead and start with the Yveltal, play the Larvitar down and the Darkrai as well, and unfortunately we do not get to go first. That is, this deck doesn't necessarily mind going second per se, but you do want to go first, particularly because you have evolutions that you want to play and all of that stuff. So it's a bit unfortunate, but you know what? We will persevere and try to figure out what to do for the time being. Yes, I would like to draw a card. Thank you very much. I get an escape rope. I'm probably not going to be using that much at all, and my opponent starts with an Yveltal EX, which could be a problem if I get my Larvitar loaded too much, so I will have to watch out for that, because all it will be is a Lysander away from getting knocked out, and that will just, stink a lot. So my opponent does Ultra Ball, grabs a Zorua. He's playing, okay, so it looks like he's playing a very streamlined version if he's running Target Whistle. So it looks like that this is just a straight Yveltal Zoroark Gallade deck, and it's a top tier deck, so this will be interesting to play against, see how we do. My opponent clearly isn't running any techs or stuff like that, to where it's slightly different or slightly more fun. It's just a straight YZG deck. So this will be interesting. I'm kind of hoping that we are able to set up, because I think once we set up, we actually have a chance, as long as my opponent doesn't get a Gallade, that is. So, my opponent is, wow, my opponent's getting a heck of a first turn, going for 2 Shaymins, Yveltal, Zorua, and a Yveltal EX. So, this will be really interesting to see if my opponent's able to get a turn 1 Gallade. I don't really think he will be, but regardless, we will see what happens. I mean, there's nothing I can do at this point. I just kind of had to sit on my hand. I mean, I do have the conundrum of whether or not I attach the Darkness Energy or I just discard it. That way I have something to get rid of with Oblivion Wing. I think at this point I am just going to attach it and then Sycamore, because I have Battle Compressor, I have Ultra Ball, I have plenty of methods of getting energy into the discard pile, so I'm not too worried about it overall. And I mean, I think we're just, despite my opponent getting a heck of a first turn, wow, this is kind of ridiculous. We are still in a pretty solid position. I mean, unless he Lysanders out and KOs my Larvitar, which will just kind of make me cry, because, I mean, I want this deck to do well. I mean, I obviously want every deck to do well, but I mean, this is a deck that I've put a lot of thought into, and I really think that this version can be pretty decent in the right matchup, as I was saying. But, I mean, I don't know how it would do against Night March and stuff like that, but this is a matchup, I mean, as long as my opponent doesn't get a Gallade out, that I think we can do pretty well in. Considering my opponent hasn't been playing Gallade down at all, I don't necessarily think Shadow Circle will be that big in this matchup or that necessary, so I'm contemplating not even playing it. I do get an even better hand after the end, so what I am going to do is get 2 energy in the discard pile, Lord knows we have plenty of that, and a Sycamore as well to be able to, get it with a VS Seeker later. So yeah, let's just go ahead and dump those 3 into the discard pile. I can max Elixir, throw in energy onto the Darkrai. Yeah, I mean, I'm going to get 1 energy on each of them anyway, and then I'm not going to play the Shaman just yet because he has Zoroarks, which thrive off me having Pokemon on my bench, so I'm going to want to be kind of careful with that. And you know what, I'm just going to end this turn with an Oblivion Wing, yeah. And then I'll attach an energy to the Larvitar. I have a Pupitar in hand. I can just, wow, voice crack there. I can go ahead and VS Seeker to grab my Sycamore, discard a Darkness Energy after I most likely attach one to the Darkrai, and I think we're just in an excellent position at this point. That Yveltal on the bench will be slightly annoying to deal with, but hopefully I can knock out this Yveltal or get enough damage on it to where the Yveltal on the bench won't be able to do too much to me. But, who knows. We do see the DCE come on, so he'll be able to hit me for, is that 120 damage? So not quite enough unless my opponent gets a Reverse Valley somehow. So, I mean, we will survive the turn. I mean, luckily I didn't think... It was kind of scary that my opponent almost got us knocked out in 1 turn. I mean, Yveltal is actually very bulky for a non-EX basic with 130 HP, so my opponent does just Battle Compress away some other stuff. Looked like a Gallade in there. And then he is going to Sycamore. He has a full bench, so I don't think we're going to have to worry about a Gallade too much. And also my opponent, that is the second Puzzle of Time he has gotten rid of, so he only has 2 left, meaning I don't necessarily have to worry about them anymore. I mean, unless my opponent gets lucky later, but whatever, we'll see. My opponent does Y-Cyclone, which is a good play, because that way he can get energy onto something else, as well as, I mean, keep this Yveltal from getting, well, I mean, he can always just play another energy onto it next turn if he wants to knock out this Yveltal, so it's a pretty solid play, but I am just going to evolve into Pupitar, Ultra Ball, get rid of the Skyla and the Darkness Energy to grab, I think, another Larvitar, yeah. Just because I saw my life flash before my eyes when I thought my opponent was going to knock out my Larvitar on the bench and not give me a chance to evolve it. But I am just going to go ahead and play that Darkness Energy onto Darkrai, and then VS Seeker for a Sycamore. I get rid of the switch, but it's not a huge deal, and okay, I get a Shadow Circle and something that I can actually kind of work with. So let's go ahead and max Elixir, put an energy onto this Larvitar, and then Trainer's Mail, see what I can get. Do I want to grab another max Elixir? I think I want the VS Seeker, but let's see. Okay, I have a couple Darkness in there. I'm really not sure. I think I'm just gonna grab the VS Seeker. I think that's the better play. Yeah. Yeah. Let's go ahead and do that. Grab that into the hand. Go ahead, and I don't want to play the other Larvitar down just because of that stupid Zoroark being able to hit me. And then I'm just gonna Oblivion Wing. I think throw another energy onto the Pupitar on the bench. At this point, I can kind of start loading it up. If my opponent does knock out my Yveltal or the Pupitar, I can just immediately respond with a Darkrai and knock him out. So I'm in a pretty solid position. Oh man, it looks like my opponent is going to stand in, and then he needs a Float Stone. Well, there's the Float Stone. Oh, I see what he's doing. He's gonna go for the Fright Knight, or the Pitch Black Spear with this Yveltal to knock out my Yveltal and hit the Darkrai for some damage, setting it up for a KO later. So that is a good play, a very unfortunate play, but a good play nonetheless. So I'm kind of starting to get slightly worried at this point. But what I can do is I can evolve the T-Tar and get another energy onto my Larvitar, or onto that T-Tar from the discard pile. So I'm just going to go ahead and, how many energy are in there? 2. So, I mean, my opponent's only taken 1 prize, so I will only get 1 additional energy. But you know what? That is completely fine. Let's go ahead and put that there. Onto the Tyranitar. I think I could play the Shadow Circle, but I really don't think it'll matter that much. I mean, I could, whatever. I'll just play another Larvitar down and put an energy onto it to have something else powered up and ready to go, and then I am just going to Sycamore away the rest of my hand. I will be able to knock out this Yveltal for sure, and I get a Sacred Ash, so that's something. I could play that Yveltal down, but again, yeah, you know what? I mean, my opponent can knock me out with the Zoroark, but that just means I will be able to get a Tyranitar up and going immediately. So, I mean, that's just something that I can do. What do I want to grab? I can grab a Tyranitar, but I can also grab a Darkrai. Do I want to grab a Darkrai, or do I want to grab a Tyranitar? Playing a Darkrai down would give me another basic that I can max Elixir onto, and apparently my discard pile doesn't want to show me what's going on at all, so I am just going to grab a T-Tar, because that way, if my opponent knocks out this Darkrai, I will be able to just Skyla for a rare candy, evolve one of my Larvitar into a Tyranitar, and then just be a single energy away. Well, there's that energy. A single energy away from going for the Dark Mountain. And I think we're in a pretty solid position. I mean, my opponent, unfortunately, if he has a Darkness energy, yep, he will be able to knock me out with his Yveltal. So that Pitch Black Spear really came into play. Clearly, my opponent knows what they're doing. So this is getting a little bit scary, but the cool thing is I will be immediately able to retaliate with a Tyranitar and just be in an excellent position. And I mean, I don't necessarily think there's much my opponent can do. I mean, Zoroark will not be able to knock me out because I will only have a Tyranitar. Well, I will only have 3 bench Pokemon, so that's 100 damage, and Tyranitar can just immediately respond back. If I can find my Lysander, I can bring those Shamans in at some point and start knocking those out. So this is a very back and forth game with heavy hitters, so I'll be curious to see. Okay, my opponent is actually getting pretty thin with his deck, so he does grab another Yveltal, I guess, maybe thinning it out. Is he planning to play it? Okay, he just Ultra Balls again. Gets, what does he get? Nothing. And, okay. So, alright, he plays a Puzzle of Time. I guess he's just rearranging the top of his deck. I mean, he'd have to be... Oh no. I think my opponent has 2 oh my goodness, how lucky is that? My opponent has 2 Puzzle of Time right now. Oh, that is so ridiculously lucky. Oh man, I mean, it's not prized. I mean, he already got rid of 2. Those are the only 2 left in his deck, and he was able to... Oh, that's so frustrating. But, I mean, at least I think he has 2. I mean, the amount of time he's taking, it's gotta be 2. Otherwise, you would just rearrange the top 3 cards and go from there. But, that's gonna stink so much because my opponent even got rid of his Target Whistle early on. I remember that. and now he'll be able to use it on a Shaman, so that's frustrating. I mean, you can't do anything when your opponent gets lucky like that, so you just kind of have to pull through and see what you can do. My opponent is taking their sweet time, though. I mean, just grab a Maxi. Okay, yeah. Grabs a Maxis and Target Whistle. Oh, we got our opponent to discard that Target Whistle early, but it is just coming back to bite us. That is so annoying. That is really, really, really annoying. But, whatever. My opponent will get a Gallade, and that's going to be able to hit my T-Tar. I mean, I was going based on the odds, and as it turns out, the odds decided to not be in my favor, even though they were. My opponent hit the equivalent of the jackpot with those two puzzles of time, so that's, I mean, unfortunate, but what can you do? And now Gallade will be able to knock out T-Tars in one hit. It'll be able to rearrange his deck to where he gets whatever he wants, and then he just Evil Balls and knocks out my Darkrai, so a single tear will roll down my cheek. But on the bright side, I do have enough energy to be able to power up a T-Tar next turn. So as long as I have one rare candy in my deck, that shouldn't be a problem. I do get another Tyranitar, not necessarily what I wanted, but I am going to go ahead and Skyla for a rare candy to be able to power up a... there we go. Oh, one is prized. That's unfortunate. But what I can do, play down the rare candy onto get a T-Tar, and then use the whatever his ability is to get 3 energy onto it, attach the final one. I could Sacred Ash, but I think I'll wait on that, and then go for a Dark Mountain, maybe, yes, Dark Mountain. Discard 2, none of them were a supporter, well, neither of them was a supporter, so it's not a big deal anyway, because we still knock out the Evil Tall. See what I get, a Trainer's Mail. Oh, there's the other rare candy, so that is phenomenal. If my opponent knocks out this T-Tar, I do have a Larvitar ready to go, just rare candy that thing up, and then hit with T-Tar. So my opponent, I think I'm in such a good position, my opponent just has to draw the exact right card every single time in order to be able to win. But I think we're in a good enough spot now to where we have a very, very good chance. I mean, hopefully my opponent's luck has run out with that double puzzle of time. I mean, I know I keep going back to that, but what are the odds that my opponent is able to draw both of them at once, the exact moment that he needs it with the exact cards? I mean, I guess that's a tribute to the deck's consistency, but it's also a little bit of just frustration in the fact that, unfortunately, I can't do anything about it when my opponent draws the exact right card when he needs it. And this T-Tar is definitely going to go down, and by the looks of it, I think my opponent's going to go for an N, just because he needs to go for the N to be able to knock me out. And yeah, so yep, there's the VS Seeker. Is he going to go for the N? Yep, so there goes my rare candy and my T-Tar, so that's going to be a little bit scary to see. And there's the Muscle Band, so even if, actually, I'm kind of regretting not playing the Shadow Circle at this point, because Gallade, even with a Muscle Band, would not be able to knock out a T-Tar if I had a Shadow Circle out. So that, I mean, that's an oversight on my part. I had zero reason to not play it out, but I mean, that was a choice that I made. It was a mistake, and it's probably going to cost me the game at this point, because I think if I had the Shadow Circle out, I'll be able to, well, I guess if my opponent isn't able to, I guess he will be able to knock out this T-Tar, and then there's that Shaman on the bench that is Lysander bait, and if my opponent is able to rearrange the top 5 cards to whatever he wants, odds are he's going to have enough. So, I mean, I still can obviously play this out, but T-Tar does go down to the Sensitive Blade. Oh, that I'm kicking myself about not playing that Shadow Circle, but nothing I can do about it now. All I can do is promote another Larvitar, and I drawn a Trainer's Mail. I can Sacred Ash for a T-Tar, but ooh, I get an Ultra Ball or a Max Elixir. I could get a guaranteed. I could definitely get a guaranteed T-Tar right now, but then I would be left with 0 cards and no way to respond. So what I think I'm going to do is just go ahead and Max Elixir, throw an energy onto the Evil Tall, slap a Muscle Band onto that, go for the VS Seeker, and get a Sycamore. I could put T-Tar and Yveltal's back in the deck, but I want to maximize my chance of drawing the rare candy and the T-Tar, which I do. Go ahead and play that there. Get all the way up to a Tyranitar. Use its ability to get plenty of energy, 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way onto my T-Tar and powered up and ready to go. I'm going to play another energy onto that Tyranitar to have it ready to go next turn. And then, you know what, just in case my opponent tries to Lysander my Shaman to make me deck out, I'm going to attach a single energy to it or the Yveltal. I think the Shaman is the better play, that way I can just retreat. And then Dark Mountain, knock out this Gallade. I discard 2 cards, but I do have an N in hand, and hopefully I can find my Lysander. Oh, there it is. Perfect. So if I can survive this turn, I win. Unfortunately, my opponent would be able to... Oh, wait, yeah, with the Muscle Band. If he has a DCE and a Lysander, we lose because he'll be able to power up the Zoroark and Lysander in the Shaman. And, well, there's the Lysander. Do we see the other half of that? Maybe. I mean, odds are, yep, we do. So, nothing I can do when my opponent draws exactly what they need, no matter what the odds are. I mean, yeah, I'm a tiny bit salty, but I have myself to blame for the Shadow Circle. But either way, I mean, when your opponent draws that well, there's just nothing you can do about it. I mean, this was a mid-tier deck at best that was able to compete fully with a top-tier deck. So you know what? I consider that a win, even though we lost, because a top-tier deck took some incredibly lucky draws in order to be able to beat me. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thank you very much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, all of that stuff. And this is Styx, signing out. Why not? See you guys.